All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto our power, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ha-Ha-Kodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who taught us the truth and who also were well. Peace and salutation to those that are hopeful elect. Just want to do a quick lesson entitled Destroy Them That Destroy the Earth. Okay, or Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai will destroy them that destroy the earth. All right, and who is the them? Okay, well, chiefly speaking of the ones that are in current rulership of the earth, are the ones that make all the decisions and is orchestrating events behind the scenes. All right, that's who it's speaking of. Okay, and we know who that is. All right, it's speaking of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. All right, starting off with the 1% bankers. All right, which they're from the tribe of Amalek. All right, the top tribe of Edom. All right, but we know that that they're the ones in power. Okay, according to prophecy, it tell you that that Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Okay, so Esau being identified, as well as the time and place in history is being identified. We're at the end. Esau's ruling, and we know that Jacob is next. Meaning, there's no way for this kingdom to continue to go forward. Why? Because the man that's ruling the kingdom, all right, is not upright. Okay, he's a heathen. All right, Yahweh Shema Shai has not dealt so with any heathen nation. All right, the Lord only dealt with the Israelites. All right, so the office of ruling the earth in righteousness is given to Israel. Okay, and that's going to be the end all be all. Okay, once Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls JC, once Yahweh Shai returns, all right, he's going to establish that kingdom for eternity. Okay, and going back to the title of the lesson, Yahweh Shema Shai is going to destroy them that destroy the earth. Okay, because the earth, how the state of the earth is a direct indicator that the ones in power shouldn't be. Okay, and let me get a quick precept. This is Proverbs 29:2. It says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Okay, and not only are the people mourning in the earth, all right, you got people living paycheck to paycheck. All right, you got people strung out on drugs. All right, the average person's attention span is shot. Okay, people, they love eating abominations. All people got ailments. People are sick. Okay, this is a direct result of the man that's ruler. Okay, not making righteous decrees, righteous laws according to the ways of the Lord. Because if man try to make up his own way, it's by default going off. All right, you have to implement the ways of Yahweh Shema Shai for life to continue. Okay, but not only are the people through, all right, the earth's vegetation. Okay, the natural, a lot of natural habitats are out of order, out of course. Let me actually get that. The foundations. Bear with me real quick. It was a precept going into that pretty much everything is out of order, out of course. Let me see if I can find it. Lord's will, I'll find, they come back to me, or I'll pull it up. I'll just quote it right now. But, the foundations of the earth is out of whack. Everything is upside down. Okay. And, the wildlife is suffering. Everybody is suffering because Esau, Edom is in rule, and he's ruling, through his wickedness pretty much. All right. And disguising it as if this is how life is supposed to be. All right. But it's not. And that's why, the scriptures say that, the earnest expectation of the creature. Okay. So, the whole creation is mourning. All right. Because a certain people is in rulership. All right. That, pretty much the whole earth hates Esau. Let me get another precept real quick. It's in the book of Revelation. This is Revelation 11 and 18. It says, bear with me. Revelations 11 and 18, it says, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged. All right. And the dead is speaking of these other nations. Okay. Which in this time, 2/3 of Israel will be considered the dead as well. Because the scriptures say, he that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. Okay. And these people that are outside, of the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shai, which you have to be an Israelite to even qualify. All right. But these people that are outside are the dead. And that's the reason why, they can't get this truth. Okay. And they're being governed, all the nations of the earth is pretty much being governed by Esau, Edom. Okay. It says that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets. Okay, and this time, you have the prophets here. If Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, obviously the prophets would be in that time period to prophesy. The scriptures say that the prophets of old prophesied against many great kingdoms, against war, pestilence, roughly paraphrasing. All right, so in this transition of kingdoms, all right, wherein the wicked is going down, all right, and, the righteous is being established, all right, the saints are present, okay, and they're serving Yahweh Shema Shai in this time by preaching this word, okay, and, many more, righteous deeds, okay, that's why there's going to be a reward, Hebrews 11, it says, without faith it is impossible to please him. Okay. But it says, he's a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. All right. So that's the servants in this time. Okay. It says, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. Okay. Because the earth, pretty much, if this place were to continue, the scriptures say no flesh will be saved. All right. But for the elect's sake, the Lord is speeding up the times. All right. But, this double Esau, he got, GMO, everything. And now he wants to put a C-hip. All right, he wants to make you a cyborg, okay? Not even, he wants to make you a genetically modified human, all right? Completely satanic, all right? And that C-hip, you know, is the highest level of witchcraft that's going to be pushed upon, you know, the mass majority of the people. And those people that, you know, love this wicked society and hate righteousness, all right, they're going to cleave unto that. All right, but the elect are going to cleave unto Yahweh Shema Shai. Isaiah 10:20 says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel, all right, so we're in that time, okay, it says, and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob, all right, so only of the house of Jacob shall escape, no other nation, okay, the Israelites. It says, shall no more again stay upon him that smote them. So we're no longer going to stay upon Esau, Edom. Meaning we're not going to depend on him or his system or the grid, all right, to survive, especially when they implement the MOTB, all right, because that's them so-called trying to lock down their continual rulership, all right, but really in reality, according to prophecy, this is the time wherein, you know, they're going to fall, right, when they're about to fill their belly, all right? So with us having that understanding, Esau is going to try to make a push and seem like he's still going to be in power, all right? He's creating false visions of the future, all right, for these people to indulge in, you know, robots and, all right? But we're looking towards Yahweh Shema Shai, all right, which is going to put a stop to Esau's wicked agenda. So I'll continue to read. It says, shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel in truth. Yeah, because that's where, you know, life is. Everybody else, all right, is going to be judged when Yahweh Shai returns. Okay? And Yahweh Shai, you know, he's the one that's going to be ruling in the kingdom to come on earth. Now, Yahweh Shema Shai already has all power in his hands. It's just that he's waiting on a go-ahead from his father to come down and exact vengeance, all right, and to re-terraform the earth, which the thermonuclear destruction upon Babylon the Great is going to have a hand in doing that, all right? But that's all the will of Yahweh Shema Shai, being those missiles being created, according to Joel 2. They're part of the Most High's army, so the Lord is getting ready to revamp the earth and bring it back to his glory, all right, by way of implementing the laws and statutes, all right, on the earth. And the Lord is going to do that through his people, okay? And first, the Lord is going to raise these bodies up to fit the standard of the law, you know, by, you know, being changed, becoming immortal. So Lord's will, I'll get one more precept and I'll be able to close it out. This is Sirach 10:1. It says, a wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. All right, so, you know, just looking up the, you know, the chain effect, you see, you know, the average Edomite, you know, just through, you know, into, you know, pedophilia, into all kind of, you know, weird shit. All right, and you see what's being pushed on a daily basis. All right, you know, the alphabet. All right, and they're trying to push that to the children. All right, it just show you that those that are in power, all right, are even more vile. All right, because they're letting these things fly and have been continuously. Okay, so, you know, Yahweh Shema Shai is going to have to put a stop to it. It says, in what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. It says, the power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord. Yeah, and we read about that in Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. All right. who has the power to give power? All right, Yahweh Shema Shai. So that means the Most High allowed Esau, Edom to rule the earth right now in wickedness. All right. So it says, in the hand of the Most High. All right, in Salakia, almost skipped over verse 4. All right, but just to add to that, the Lord establishing Esau, Edom, which is the wicked that the Bible speaks of, in power. All right, the Lord did that just for the nation of Israel, starting off with the elect, to see, what happens, all right, when you go all the way left. Okay, you get this current world that we're in, all right, which is getting ready to get worse during the time of Jacob's trouble, leading up to the destruction, all right? And it's a learning experience for the hopeful elect, ultimately the elect. So in the kingdom, all right, Lord's will, we part of that number, we're going to know how to judge, all right, because we've seen it all, okay? So going back to Sirach 10:4, it says, the power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable, all right? And that's our Lord Yahweh Shai. And Yahweh Shai is going to establish the throne of David, and the house of David, which is the 144,000, are going to be the governing body, all right? And then you're going to have the 1/3 that's going to be a part of that as well, all right, in the respective order, okay? Because there's going to be men, women, and children, our friends of the prophets, okay, that are delivered. Not necessarily, they're not going to be prophets, but they're believers in Yahweh Shema Shai, okay? So that's going to be the next, governing body to be established after this kingdom goes down, all right? Because all these other nations think they're in line to rule. They're up next to be the great superpower, all right? Now that America fell off, right? But Yahweh Shema Shai is the one that's going to intervene, all right? Because the earth is already at its wit's end. How another heathen get in power is going to run it down even more. It's going, instead of a progression, it's going to be a lateral step. All right, but Yahweh Shema Shai, thankfully the Lord said Esau, Edom is the end of the world. So after this rulership, all right, the kingdom's going to be established forever. This is it. Okay. Verse 5, it says, in the hand of the Most High is the prosperity of man, and upon the person of the scribe shall he lay his honor. So yeah, that was pretty much it. Esau, Edom, man that destroyed the earth. All right, everything's all fucked up. Everybody's all, their brain is all scrambled. All right, because of Esau, Edom, man. All right, and the Lord is getting ready to take this devil out of power. All right, but there's going to be a stint, where Esau, he's going to try to fight to keep his kingdom. All right, but nevertheless, when he implements the MOTB, according to Revelations 13, okay, that's when, the missiles is going to get let off in World War III. And our Lord Yahweh Shai is going to come to deliver the elect before the missiles touch down. The elect simultaneously being transformed into those new bodies while going up into the chariot. All right, and on standby until the fire died down from America being destroyed. All right, to come up out those chariots, all right, and establish the earth. Like the scriptures say in Daniel, it says the saints shall take the kingdom. All right, well, in that time, the Lord is going to give us that power to do so. And you elites, they have all kind of resources to go in bunkers, and all right, they're going to escape the major, nuclear holocaust. They're going to survive in those bunkers outside of America, but the Lord is going to be there to send his men to round them up. All right, and they're going to go head first into that, that servitude. So Lord's will, this lesson was edifying. I want to say, call Allah Yahweh by Shema Shai, by Shem Kakwadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who taught us his truth, who also will well. Peace and salutation to those of the hope for the elect. Shalom and a Bible ball.